Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. Well, it couldn't last. The past few weeks on Billboard Breakdown, while not perfect, have at least shown a little bit more potential. But this week shows that crap has its own certain type of inertia. Even though there are some positive signs, a lot of this week feels like for every 2 steps forward we've taken 1 step back. And you want proof of it? Look at our top 10, where Closer by the Chainsmokers featuring Halsey somehow has notched its 10th week at the #1 spot on the Hot 100. Okay, I get why it's here. It's still dominant across each category, but why at this point? Why are people still buying this basic catty bullshit with 2 of the least interesting vocal performances of 2016? It finally got a music video beyond just the lyric video, and that looks about as lazy and sloppily edited as the drop was on this song. So I have to hope that its traction won't hold up for much longer, but then again, that might not matter. Starboy by The Weeknd is making a valiant effort for another possible Halloween smash at #2. It's got strong sales and streaming and real airplay momentum, but it just might be too far back at this point unless Closer peaks on airplay. Which didn't happen this week. Hell, didn't happen either with Heathens by 21 Pilots, and it's easily got the airplay and streaming to make up for slightly weaker sales at #3. Then there's Let Me Love You by DJ Snake and Justin Bieber. Again, huge streaming, airplay momentum compensating for weaker sales. I don't really see this going away either at #4. Fortunately, we've got Broccoli by Dram featuring Lil Yachty clawing its way back up to #5, which seems to be taking its sweet time going up the airplay charts while letting its huge streaming do all the work and compensate for some weaker sales too. It held there enough to even eclipse 24 Karat Magic by Bruno Mars, which slipped down to #6, but I don't see that lasting. The sales are good, the airplay momentum is enormous. It's only lagging behind a bit on streaming, and that can pick up pretty fast. Of course, none of that is good for Cold Water by Major Lazer, Justin Bieber, and Mwah, which is basically clinging to residual streaming and airplay as it's falling hard and fast. It'll probably be taken over by Side to Side by Ariana Grande featuring Nicki Minaj up to #8, which finally has some airplay momentum to match its good sales and better streaming. So it's only a matter of time here before this gets higher. Of course, then we come to our newest arrival in the top 10, Don't Wanna Know by Maroon 5 featuring Kendrick Lamar. I would repeat all my questions from Closer here. The radio loves unthreatening dreck like Maroon 5 these days, but who in the hell is buying this and why? But to be fair, it is a new song. To also be fair, it's complete garbage and doesn't remotely deserve to be in the top 10. And on that subject, Treat You Better by Shawn Mendes is at #10. It peaked on airplay, the sales are miserable, it's only here thanks to inertia, let's pray it's gone soon. And on that note, our losers and dropouts. Now, here it's a bit of a mixed bag. Sure, I'm not really complaining that Just Like Fire by Pink is gone, but she took with it Father Stretch My Hands Part 1 by Kanye West and Kid Cudi, Peter Pan by Kelsey Ballerini, You Don't Own Me by Grace and G-Eazy, and Perfect Illusion by Lady Gaga, so overall that's a net negative. And it's a similar case for our losers too. I'm not complaining that Rock On by Tucker Beatard got rotated off the radio and fell hard to 91, but when you pair it with the continued losses for I Met a Girl by William Michael Morgan down to 94, This Girl by Kung's been Cooking on 3 Burners down to 75, and This Town by Niall Horan down to 65, again, not a net positive. Now, I would say all this could be compensated by our gains in returning entries, and we got a lot of both this week, but really, you're only looking for that in the latter category. For some god-awful reason, Lockjaw by French Montana and Kodak Black rebounded up to 97, and All Eyes by The Game and Jeremiah went up to 79, but in the latter case, that song at least has the excuse of the album dropping for some traction there. Thankfully, Goosebumps by Travis Scott and Kendrick Lamar scraped back to 100, good to see some good Kendrick Lamar here. Why You Always Hatin' by YG, Drake, and Kamaya muscled back to 88, and best of all, False Alarm by The Weeknd roared back to 68. Now, I don't have a ton of faith this song will grab a lot of momentum. It's sort of wild, unhinged dance track that the mainstream often has no idea what to do with, especially with more distortion on the vocals and an actual guitar line in 2016. But if it turns out to be a smash, we might have some hope going in for the rest of the year. Granted, it's a lot harder to have hope when you take a look at our gains this week. Sure, All Time Low by John Bellion picked up off its debut to 59, but Don't Wanna Know broke the top 10 off its debut. you. Our consistent gains? Well, Fresh Eyes by Andy Grammer's not bad at 74, but you're balancing it off with Song for Another Time by Old Dominion up to 69. And yeah, Wanna Be That Song by Brett Eldridge is decent as country radio tries to fill slots at 76. Similar case for rock radio and Hand Clap by Fits and the Tantrums up to 67. But beyond that, the best of them is probably Capsized by Friendship and Emily Warren up to 78. And the rest, when the best of them is Black Beatles by Ray Shrimmer and Gucci Mane hitting 22, you got a lot of problems. Gangsta by Kehlani somehow got another small boost up to 90. Money Longer by Lil Uzi Vert rose up to 58. And X by 21 Savage and Metro Boomin featuring Future went up to 54. Again, not a net positive. So look, none of this is particularly promising, so maybe our new debuting songs might have something, starting off with number 100, How'll Always Be by Tim McGraw.
Guitars playing, wandering churches, back road waltzing, front porch swinging, the sunset skies, bonfire nights, I love the simple things, that's how I'll always be.
Now, if you've been following country for some time, you can tell that the wind has shifted back towards neo-traditional sounds this year. And in a sense, you can also tell that Tim McGraw has been looking to jump ship back to that sound since at least 2014. Granted, this particular song doesn't quite fall into that mold beyond the lyrics. The spacey touches of steel guitar and sharper guitar grooves accented by the pianos are definitely a modern tone in country, but it does tap into a more authentic spirit that Tim McGraw has hit in the past. And you can tell that even though he didn't write this song, he definitely buys into it in his vocal delivery. And like I said when I reviewed Damn Country Music last year, it's a little bit tough to buy into his rejection of trendy crap, especially if you're familiar with his bro country pivot a couple years ago. But you know what? If he wants to overcompensate in order to make a point, this is a pretty decent song to do it with. I actually like this a fair bit. It's not better song like Here Tonight, which really should have been the follow-up single, but it's still good regardless. I'll take this. Number 98, My Shit with A Boogie Dip the Hoodie.
Got my bitch a Louis bag now, she can brag now. But my bitch a Birkin bag now, she a bride now. Now I'm sitting in a club in a different bag now. Baby, when I pick it up, you gon' put that ass down. Tell him you don't give a fuck, baby, spin that ass round. Tell her DJ turn it off, what the fuck is that sound?
Okay, you're gonna have to follow with me on this one. This guy is a New York MC who got picked up a big co-sign from Drake a couple months back behind this song in his debut mixtape. And while I'd usually drop this guy into the same slot of the mediocre trap MCs who've got one song and then are immediately forgotten, the short track length, the bland lyrics, the incredibly underwhelming performance, plus the autotune, makes it easy to assign that label, but this isn't really a trap banger in the same way, most notably in the production. Instead, it's got these low strings off a sharper staccato piano line and a very sparse popping beat that plays off traces of organ, otherwise trying to add a little bit more class and flavor to the song, which unfortunately translates into the lyrics to your standard brand name dropping. But again, I got a hard time caring about songs like this. The content is so empty and vacant, I can't help but tune this out, especially with the knowledge it's probably gonna drop out soon. It's not anything good, but again, I'm not gonna care about this either, and I've definitely heard worse, so take it as you will. Number 95, 80s Mercedes by Maren Morris.
Turning every head, hell, I ain't even trying. Got them Ray-Ban shades, pretty in pink. Call me old school, but hey, I'm a 90s baby in my 80s Mercedes. I'm a 90s baby in my 80s Mercedes.
You know, of the big debuts this year, I don't think I'd find one who's disappointed me quite as much as Maren Morris, especially because My Church is a damn good song to lead things off with, and yet it's very telling that it's taken this long for her to chart a second big hit, most notably because Hero was much more of a pop record than it was country, and that's not the direction the wind is blowing in country music right now. Now, by the standards of pop, is 80s Mercedes bad? Well, not precisely. The fuzzy beat against the wiry synths plays off some solid spacey melodic effects pretty well, the guitar in the bridge was very welcome, and the hook is indeed catchy. And hell, I don't even mind the fact the song is a pure ego trip celebrating Maren Morris in a classic Mercedes car. Hell, my dream car is a Mercedes. But you know what? Living in Toronto, downtown especially, means I don't need a car, and I sure as hell don't need this on a country album. As pop, I guess it's fine, but it's not anything I'm gonna care about in anything later, and that really is the real problem. Number 93, Alone by Marshmello.
See
I knew we were going to be talking about this eventually. Frankly, I'm just surprised it took this long to cross over to the United States. But for those of you in the US or who don't otherwise know, Marshmello is a future bass producer, has been building a ton of buzz internationally for the past year or so off his SoundCloud remixes, and the fact that he's yet another masked DJ whose identity remains a mystery to someone at this point, even though he did unmask a little while ago. He actually dropped an album in early January that I got precisely 0 requests to cover, but that hasn't stopped him from dropping huge singles, including this one, which has accumulated a good 105 million hits on YouTube in 3 months. In other words, this is the sort of track that has international swell and attention, and I kinda get why. The low wiry synths that lead to the airy gloss of sandy bounce that leads to a song with a fair amount of traditional EDM swell, and the sharp staccato feel of the drop is one of the more controlled and well balanced that we've heard thus far in the mainstream this year, although I definitely prefer the first drop in the song to the second one. I can't say I'm always wild about the heavily pitch corrected vocals, and I definitely question how this song is about feeling alone, which doesn't remotely fit with a lot of the brighter tones and textures, but overall, it's not bad. I'll take it. Number 80, Bad Things by Machine Gun Kelly and Camila Cabello.
It's complicated. Don't matter what you say, don't matter what you do. I only wanna do bad things to you. So good that you can't explain it. What can I say? It's complicated.
You know, there was a time when I remember Machine Gun Kelly having some significant hype behind him. Not hype that I really cared about, but I remember around the turn of the decade, his name did come up a fair bit as he landed on the XXL freshman list in 2012. Now, he definitely got eclipsed by a lot of names on that list. Macklemore, Iggy Azalea, Future, Danny Brown, Hobson, French Montana, Kid Ink. Holy shit, XXL got it right for 1 year at least. But I reckon it was a lot more his underwhelming sophomore project, General Admission, late last year that slammed his momentum into a brick wall. Now, on the one hand, he didn't really seem to care all that much about it, instead focusing on a bunch of acting work. On the other hand, it looks kind of desperate when to notch a comeback single you team up with a member of Fifth Harmony. Now, sure enough, it's his biggest ever single, but that doesn't mean it's all that good, or much of anything altogether. Truth be told, I have no idea how I feel about the song beyond just being kind of mediocre. The piano and unsettled low swells could work against the sparse flutters of the percussion and hints of guitar, but then you get our performers and, well, you can tell they record their material at separate times because the chemistry falls completely flat with this. Part of this are the performers themselves. MGK's flow doesn't remotely work with any sort of seductive or enticing vibe that he's trying to cultivate in his very bare bones content, and any menace of the bad boy is kneecapped by the attempted crooning on the pre-chorus. But it's not like Camila's really helping here. She's trying to play the seduced good girl who's getting enticed into being the bad girl, and it's very telling how weak and thin her vocals are on this hook. This sort of delivery is just outside of her emotional range, and I just don't buy it whatsoever. In other words, I remind a little bit of Camila's collaboration with Shawn Mendes, I Know What You Did Last Summer from earlier this year. There's some potential, but you need a lot better performers to pull this off all that well, so yeah, I'd skip this. Number 73, Dirty Laundry by Carrie Underwood.
Although it's midnight sneaking in, I'm late again. Oh, I'm so sorry. All the Ajax in the world ain't gonna clean your dirty laundry.
So now we got the newest single from Carrie Underwood's album Storyteller from last year, and man, I really wish I liked this song as much as I did Church Bells, which really did grow on me. I could go on about how Carrie Underwood has gone through this territory too many times and thrashing some guy stupid enough to cheat on her, but in this case, her retribution is hanging out his dirty laundry as a sign of his infidelity. Literally, and well, that seems weak. The idea that public shaming here, but how many people would catch on to the little details of his shirt that are implicating him? And when you combine it with the flubbed rhyme in the first 2 lines of the song, that's not precisely good. And while I get what Jay Joyce was trying to do here with the windswept production, echoing the guitar line against the sharper percussion, but instead of building to a dramatic swell and any sort of power, the tones feel muffled and blurry, which leads to an oddly tepid feel for the song, not helped by the clipped record scratching on the outro that doesn't remotely belong near a song like this. Not even the guitars in the bridge pick up a lot of real swell, and for a Carrie Underwood song, yeah, sorry, kinda disappointing. Not bad, but not really good either. And finally, number 72, Blow Your Mind, Mwah by Dua Lipa. I've talked a bit before about the English pop artist Dua Lipa, months ago when she showed up on World Hit with Be The One, which is a pretty damn great pop song thanks to a pretty tight groove on the verses that flowed into the multi-track blur of the hook and with Dua Lipa's natural charisma. So this being her big crossover to the US, sadly it's not that good. And it's tough to find the exact place where it doesn't click as well here. I would point to the hook where her husky tones remind me a lot of Jessie J, where that kissing sound effect steps into the sort of obnoxious territory that I'm not sure she can really back up, or how the hook doesn't have the same flow or punch as Be The One, riding another pretty tight rolling groove into the verses and pre-chorus, only to a very blocky synth that gets weirdly choppy on the hook and the post-chorus. Or maybe some of it's the lyrics, where the verses are enticing and the hook is more confrontational and frustrated, only offering a reprieve in the final lines, even if you can call it that. Structurally, it kind of seems off to me. Normally the hook resolves the problem of the verses, not the other way around. It just kind of feels wonky. So yeah, it's not really a bad song per se, but I can see this wearing on my patience pretty fast if it sticks around. And even if I do like Dua Lipa as a performer, I'm not sure this is her best introduction to the United States. Just saying. So yeah, that was our week, and wow, not a lot of real quality here. Skipping honorable and dishonorable mentions this week, mostly because they're both a toss-up two different ways, with the best of the week going to How I'll Always Be by Tim McGraw for being at least a consistently good song, and the worst two, Bad Things by MGK and Camila Cabello, less because it's actively bad and more because it had the potential to be a lot better than it actually is. So yeah, not really a great or even good week here, but hey, at least False Alarm is back. Let's hope it gets traction. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.